Um, so I think we'll move on a little bit. You mentioned something about student positioning, and so maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Can a student position himself, herself, to be a better candidate, and also maybe to qualify for this financial aid?
Right. In real estate, it's location, 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 and in applying to colleges, it's fit, fit, fit.
Okay.
You want the student to fit the college. And guidance counselors at schools will try and do that, and they look primarily at the academic aspects of the fit and then the lifestyle aspects of the fit. Will the student be happy there? Will the student be happy in a huge public university with hundreds of people in the class, or should they be at a private university with a small, intimate class?
Mm-hmm.
They don't, however, look at the financial aspects of the fit.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really where I come in.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm looking for is where the student is positioned so that the college will to be desirable to that college. So the college will make an investment in the student.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the college will aid the student financially to be able to come to that college.
Mm-hmm. And so this is an interesting thought or area. I think one of the challenges, of course, is just that with the budget restraints and so forth, the counselors may have a hard time to really guide the students that much. I don't remember even when I was going to school getting very much guidance. I ended up doing quite a bit of research myself in this process of deciding what I was going to do. What do you think about that?
Yes, it's true. First of all, counselors typically will stay away from the financial issues anyway. They're not trained in it, and they have no way of collecting the information from the parents. So that doesn't make sense. They may be able to point the students to where to look on the college websites or other websites for information. But in dealing with families, I find that this isn't usually the case. Maybe if it is the case, those families don't need me and don't come to me. But if a family comes to me, typically they have not been looking at those kind of resources. They have not been understanding what is or is not available at particular colleges to help them financially.
Yeah. So the internet has, in general, it's just been actually a terrific help in making a lot of information available to people. And so I would think that would be actually a good place to
absolutely.
To look and
absolutely. And
find some of this information.
It's changing all the time. It's there's new information coming out. Obviously, this is something I try and keep a very close eye on. But even then, I discover maybe one website a month that I had no idea was there previously. I'd never heard of it, never seen it, never seen it referenced. And all of a sudden, it pops up through something I'm following, and it turns out to be a great resource. So.
Okay, again, we were talking about student positioning. Well, maybe before I move on to that, we were talking about internet resources. Are there a couple maybe that you can just sort of mention, maybe that you may know that you can share with our viewers?
Yeah, one that I think is very important is a site called College Navigator. That's not actually the URL of it. The URL is something like NCES, and it would be a government URL, so it'd be probably .gov.
Okay.
And that's the National Center for Education Statistics, I think it is.
Okay.
But if you Google College Navigator, it will come up.
Okay.
And that's a site that really gives you a lot of information about the individual college. There's something called the Common Data Set. So all these government bodies and other commercial bodies, Kaplan, Princeton Review, College Board, they're all going to go to colleges and ask for their statistics. And the colleges get sick of answering all these individual requests, so they create something called the Common Data Set, which is like an encyclopedia of information about the colleges.
Okay.
These things are not widely or easily distributed, but they do go to certain sites like the College Navigator, This information goes to the College Navigator site, so you can access it there. So if you go to College Navigator, you will see all the statistics for how much financial aid is given, what the makeup of the freshman class is, what loans people come out of, what the graduation rate is of the college. So that is probably singly the most useful site, I think, for parents.
Good. Well, thank you for that. I think, folks, if you watch this, you just paid for whatever I did related to this show. Okay. Now, we're getting back to student positioning a little bit. How can you make a student more attractive to a college?
If we're talking about a private college, and really we are more talking about private colleges,
okay,
because they're less governed by the numbers. But so you want to be in the top 25% of the intake. And when I'm talking about top 25%, I'm talking academically. And the easiest way to judge that is through the SAT or ACT score. So you go to somewhere like the College Navigator site for your list of colleges, and you can write down at what point the 75th percentile is for the SAT score, say. So now you've got a list of colleges with their 75% SAT score. And you look to see where you figure against these. If you're in that top 25%, you're much more likely to be offered some additional financial help, especially from a private college that has money at its discretion to give out.
Okay.
If you're not, then you're not going to get as much money. It may mean then that some schools, some academically challenging schools, if you do get an offer of admission, then it's going to be more expensive for you, and you have to sort of figure that out in your budgeting.
But that also, so that's one factor is your academic scores, and something maybe that you can do some things about. Particularly the SATs and the ACTs is just another examination, so you can study for it just like any other examination, and prepare for it.
So it's not only a matter of admission, it's also a matter of finances. So sometimes you can say to a parent, are you investing in some SAT preparation or tutoring? No, it's too expensive. But, lifting that score 30, 60 points could be worth, $5,000 a year. Then it becomes a good investment.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I was surprised in school that, of course, all the kids compare their scores, or they talk about them quite often. And I was surprised that some people I knew that were straight A students didn't necessarily do that well on an SAT. And, and maybe it was because of a lack of preparation. Maybe they were working on their other schoolwork and not preparing for that exam. But what we're saying right now, though, is it can be well worth the investment.
Yes, it's not the only factor. I mentioned earlier that GPA is up there as well. If there's a big difference, a discrepancy between GPA and the SAT test, some people just don't do well in an exam situation. So that kind of thing isn't necessarily too disastrous. But on the other hand, if you can get that score up there, it can only help with regard to money.
And related to success, at least from what I've heard from people that I know in education, they say the best predictor for academic success in the university, as far as good grades and so forth, is whether they just got good grades in high school. And so however they did on this test, if they have done well in their classes in high school, chances are they're going to do well in their classes in college. Okay. Well, all the things that we've been talking about, it sounds a lot like there's a lot to be aware of and to do. What are some of the mistakes that families make when they're trying to get their child into college?
Well, first we have to identify failure to save. If a child is born 18 years, you can predict 18 years in the future there's the opportunity to go to college. If it's a family that's never had a student in college before, perhaps that's understandable. But such a family typically is going to benefit more from financial aid anyway. But for a middle class, upper income family, it should be a goal for the student to go to college, and that is a predictable expense, I'm not saying you have to save it all, but you know, you have to recognize it's there and plan accordingly. The next thing that I think people go wrong, they just don't prepare a budget. It's difficult to prepare a budget because, you know, a number of the factors that go into it aren't easy to assess beforehand. You don't really know what the financial aid package is going to be exactly, what aid the college is going to give. But you can at least understand what kind of ballpark you're in, and not leave what's basically like a $200,000 decision to a 17-year-old. People do that. They, I talk to families and say, well, what schools is your student applying to? Well, we don't know. We think this and this and this. So they're letting the
Harvard,
student...
Yale.
Yeah, they're letting the student apply to colleges that perhaps they're not going to be happy paying for. So that would be an issue. And then I briefly mentioned earlier the graduation rate.
Yes.
Are you going to be there for 4 years or 5?
Yes.
Well, there's a 25% increase in cost just by jumping into the 5th year.
You know, one thing that I'm going to throw in here is something that we did, and some people may not think this is right, but anyway, to require your kids to work to help to pay for their own education. And we were fortunate that our kids did get some financial aid, but they also, all 3 of them, worked and helped to contribute to their own education. And I think that they benefited from that and maybe had some more pride. And it also gave them an incentive to finish sooner. And so I had one child who actually finished a quarter early, and which was great.
That's great, yes.
Yeah, the University of California, Southern California, pretty darn good. Excuse me, University of California, Los Angeles, excuse me. And then the other 2 graduated on time. Also, all of my kids went to community college at least for a year. So that helped too. Okay.
Yeah, if you do the budgeting correctly, you can forestall some of the bad situations. You can make sure that the family is going to get through.
Okay. We have probably about a minute and a half. Do you think college is still worth the investment?
You know, college gives better citizens. I mean, you know, citizens are better for going to college. That's not necessarily what every family looks for, though. They often look at the economic aspect of it. And the numbers there, the believable numbers, are that, yes, it is still a good investment. If you bring everything to a net present value, a college degree compared with not having a degree is worth about $400,000. But to get it costs $100,000 on average. Again, you know, lots of variation behind that. So if you look at that, invest $100,000 for a $400,000 return, that's still worth it.
Okay. And there's, as we said, there is just the aspect of having a student that can think better, be a better member of society, and contribute. All right, folks, we're all out of time. So this is a huge area, you know, very important area, important decisions for families. Think about this carefully. Participate and guide your children in this process. The help is available, people like David. And we'll see you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.